All right, welcome to San Diego Unified Office Skills Training, our video series Tips and Tricks. In today's video, we're going to be learning how to share a folder in Google Drive. So here we are on the home page of our Google Drive in our sandy.net Google domain. And I have, as you can see, a number of different folders here, different colors and different names. The one that we're going to share today is over here on the right. It's called a practice folder. Now, there's a couple of ways to share this, but let's talk about what's in this practice folder real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and drill down on practice folder by double clicking on it. And as I do that, you can see in our navigation path appear, we can see that the practice folder inside my drive, but I also have 3 additional folders: practice folder 1, practice folder 2, and practice folder 3. I also have a number of different files that are in there. I've got a Google Form file, I've got a Google Slides file, I have a Google Sheets file, and a Google Docs file. And so in addition to that, I've got contents inside these different practice folders. So there's an Excel workbook. I also have a Google Sheets workbook there in practice folder 1. And then in practice folder 2, I've got a Word document as well as a Google Docs document. And then if we go back to practice folder number 3, then we see that there's nothing in there. And we're actually going to show how once we share the practice folder, we start putting things inside that folder, or inside, in this case, a folder inside that folder, then those things will also be shared. Just to explain how all of that works. So let's go back to my drive. And here we have the practice folder. And right now what I want to do is I want to share that with a couple of people. So I can simply just either select it one time and go up here to the share icon that appears, or I can just double click on it to, right click on it to open up a menu that allows me to share. So go up here to the top and I left click on share, and we get the share dialog box that opens up. And so the first thing we see here is that we need to add some people to share this with, and all we need simply are their email addresses. And so I've got a couple of people here I want to share this with. So I'm going to type in the letter, and depending on who I've shared it with most recently, those things will come up first. And so I just typed in T, so I have my practice training helpers here. I've got John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. That's right, the Fab Four. So I want to go ahead and right now just share this with John Lennon, my trainer T1, John Lennon. And at this point, I have to make a couple decisions. I can either make him an editor, or I can make him just a viewer, or just a viewer and a commenter. I'm going to go ahead and leave him as editor. And at this point, if I want to, I can type out a message saying, here you go, John, this is the folder that I was going to share with you, and type that out. And then I could just send it to him. I'm going to go ahead and skip the message for right now. And I'm going to go ahead and say send. So now at this point, we see that this red folder here now has a little share icon, a little person kind of there. And so that folder is now shared. And if I open it back up, the sharing, I can just right click and go up to share here. And we can see now that I am the owner. That's me, Mr. Jesperson. And I have now shared it with trainer T1, John Lennon, and he is an editor. At this point, if I want to, I can make whatever changes that I want to, change them only to a viewer or a commenter. If I want to, I can also just give him temporary access. If I need to, I can actually transfer the ownership and make, instead of myself, we can make trainer T1 the owner of this particular folder, and then he will have complete control over that. At this point, I'm going to leave it the same, and I just want to add a few more. So I'm going to put in my some other trainers here. Let's go ahead and add Paul McCartney. Why not? I'm going to hit it again. And how about George Harrison? And one more time, we'll add Ringo to that. And I'm going to leave them all editors from now. Not going to send them a message, and I'm just going to click send to actually share that with them. So let's talk about what I just shared in this practice folder. Because I shared this practice folder with those individuals, they now have editing access, not only to the folder, but all of the contents inside. Let's take a look. So all three of our practice folders inside now have the share icon, whereas before they did not. And each one of these is actually shared. And so, as well as that, all of these files that you see down here are also shared with all four of them. And if I right click on this one right here and I go to share, you'll see that all four of them there. If I decide for some reason I want to make, for example, Trainer T3, George Harrison, not an editor anymore and just make him a viewer, I can do that just on this one particular file right here. I'm going to go ahead and leave him an editor, but you can do that. When you share, in this case, the practice folder, the main one that I had, everything inside of it is also going to be shared, and everything inside those folders will also be shared. So inside practice folder 1, I've got an Excel file and I've got my Google Sheets here, and I just right click on any of these and go to share, and you'll see that I have all four trainers there are set up as editors. All right, and the same for going back to practice folder 2, the contents of that, the same thing. Anything that's in there is also shared with all of them. And so I'm going to click away just to make that go away. But what about practice folder number 3? So here, I don't have anything yet inside this practice folder number 3, which is again shared with all four of those individuals. At this point, I can either go up here to new and I can upload a file, or I can go over here to my desktop on my computer here in my office, and I can just left click and drag in. And as you can see, as I'm going around in circles here, there's a little plus copy written in blue there. What that means is anything that I drag off of my computer, in this case, the desktop of my computer, it's not going to erase whatever's on my computer here. It's simply just going to make a copy of it and put it inside, in this case, practice folder 3. And so it says it's uploading, and it just takes a second to do that. And so there it is. I've got this Excel file that I've just brought into my practice folder number 3. And so if I right click on it now and click on share just to see who it's shared with, you'll see that it's still shared with all of the same individuals. All right. So anything, whatever folder that I have that's shared, whatever I add to it, whether it's another folder or in this case, another file, I can, for example, come over here and grab, this is a folder. I have a practice folder with a number of different folders inside of it and other things as well. And when I drag that in, as soon as it's uploaded, if I right click on it and go to share, you'll see that it's still shared with all of those individuals. All right, so that's the basics of how this works by simply sharing a folder. Everything inside of it is going to be shared with those individuals. If you gave one individual the right to just view, then that's all the permissions they're going to have inside any of those other folders or files that are there. But again, as we said, if you go in there at any time, if you decide that you want an entire folder that's inside that practice folder to not be shared, I can simply go in there, right click on it, and go to the share icon here. And in this case, I can then go down and just simply say remove. And each one of these, let's try that again. Go down and remove. Get rid of George Harrison here, remove him. And if I want, I could leave Ringo Starr, but let's go ahead and remove everybody. And now, if I click save, then practice folder number 2 no longer has the share icon. And more importantly, or in addition, I should say, everything that's inside there is also not shared because the permissions cascade downward. So if I click on share, you'll see that it just has me as the owner. All right, so that's the basics of how to share a folder in Google Drive. And remember that whatever you share in Google Drive, if you have a folder in this case with folders inside of it, whatever permissions you give on this particular folder, those sharing rights or permissions cascade downward or inside all of those other folders and files that are in there. And so that's it. Thank you for coming to join us with tips and tricks, how to share a folder in Google Drive.